Welcome to your astrological forecast for the week of Monday, September 2nd through Sunday, September 8th, 2024. How are we all doing? I think we just had a pretty weird August, really a pretty weird summer in general. There's a lot of dark and gloomy vibes that were hanging over July for many of us. And then August was really dominated by Mercury retrograde, which occurred between August 2nd and August 28th. So, pretty much the entire month, we're really just coming out of that Mercury retrograde hangover as we're starting this week. So, yeah, a lot of weirdness, a lot of dysfunctional energy. I think this Mercury retrograde in particular this past month really hit a lot of us very hard. I think it was extra dysfunctional. Part of that was because Mercury started out retrograde in Virgo where it's exalted. I think that part was actually more tame compared to when Mercury went backward into Leo and we had, multiple T squares. It got really complicated. It was very dysfunctional. Hopefully, though, we've kind of done a lot of soul searching over this past month and really over the summer in general. And hopefully, we have maybe gleaned a new perspective, new information. We may have gained a lot of information on our past or, dealt with our past, maybe themes from the past that we thought we had dealt with but hadn't. I don't know. So hopefully now we're ready to move forward. And really that's what I see happening this week. We are turning a new leaf, moving forward. Part of that is definitely Mercury direct. Mercury's still moving through those last, almost 10 degrees of Leo. But we're moving forward. That's the key thing here. And really this week is dominated by the Virgo new moon, which actually happens on Monday, September 2nd, very late in the day, Eastern Standard Time. So I'm showing the chart for this day right now, of course. And this new moon really shows it's a new chapter, a new moon, just like it sounds like it's a new beginning. This new moon is in Virgo, meaning we're having a new beginning in Virgo. So it's a great time of getting organized, or moving forward when it comes to what else? Getting organized, doing anything productive, anything involving a lot of information, learning, integrating. All of that is going to be really excellent, in the following weeks, following this Virgo new moon. But let's look at the astrology of this new moon. So this new moon happens at 11 degrees Virgo, if you want to get technical. And it really doesn't aspect anything other than there is an opposition. It's not exact, but it's an opposition with an orb of 5 degrees to Saturn, which is at 16 degrees Pisces. And so basically, there's this opposition between the sun and moon at 11 degrees Virgo, very late Monday or very early Tuesday, depending on your time zone, opposing Saturn at 16 degrees Pisces. So whenever you have Virgo Pisces oppositions, they can make you feel crazy. They can make you feel like the very nature of your reality is kind of shifting, or maybe it's just your perspective that's shifting. It's really impossible to know for sure. There's no objectivity there. It's where subjectivity and objectivity merge. How do you combine Virgo and Pisces? That can be very confusing. It can be very messy. And really it brings up all these questions about, our mentality, our emotional health, but our physical health as well. So again, it can be a crazy time, especially because this is Saturn involved, Saturn opposing or being opposed by the new moon. So there is this new beginning, but it's focused on getting realistic. We need to be mature at this time, unfortunately. Saturn's energy is very cold and oppositions are intense. So we're really squaring off. We're really facing off with this cold, hard Saturn energy. How can we be more structured? How can we be more realistic with kind of everything, with our life, with our attitude, with our ideas, with our mental health, our physical health? We may have to be more realistic in these areas having to do with health, lifestyle, etc. So this dynamic can be very complicated, but really my only advice would be to say to go back to the basics. Go spend time in nature, spend time with relaxing in healthy, constructive ways, which I know isn't a super sexy message to deliver, but really that's how I see this energy playing out. It's going to be really easy to get lost into fantasy, into, go into escapism and maybe ways of escaping that aren't necessarily healthy for you. But there's going to be extra hard consequences, on and around Monday, September 2nd, with those forms of escapism because of Saturn in Pisces. It's forcing us to get realistic with our mental health, with our, escapist tendencies, with our relationship with reality, basically, our relationship with ourselves, our health, our well-being, etc. So again, slower activities. Can you relax and unwind in healthy and constructive ways? Pastimes that are either spiritual in nature or creative or artistic in some kind of way. Maybe any kind of pastime that's more thoughtful or kind of reflective in nature, like go for a nice walk in the woods, or I don't know, knit a sweater, write in your journal or something. You know what I mean? Like, these things aren't very exciting, but that's the whole point. This is crucial because these types of things are what build our intuition, and that is the key to everything else. You can have an exciting life. You can, do, I don't know, whatever it is you want to do. That's great, but you have to also have periods of rest. I think that's what the Virgo Pisces axis is all about. It's about integrating, resting, relaxing. You have to do that if you want to come back strong the next day or whatever it is, and work hard, or be successful. You have to do that period of rest and integration first before you come up with those big ideas and take those big steps, big action, whatever it is. So that's kind of how I see this new moon playing out. I always say that new moons, they can be intense, but they're usually more non-physical in nature. So this is a new beginning in our hearts, in our minds, in our spirit. There may be some kind of new idea, new feeling, but usually it starts out non-physical before it manifests itself in a more physical way, if that makes sense. So new moons can actually be quiet. I do think because of Saturn's opposition, though, this may feel tense. It may feel stressful, heavy, depressing. The Saturn energy kind of sucks. It's a buzzkill. It's not fun. But again, if you follow my advice and you go through these, slower, more constructive, like spiritual behaviors and pastimes, it doesn't have to feel so heavy and intense. You can use this, to your advantage, and you can build off of this, because as we gain momentum, the moon will gain light as it separates from the sun over the following days. And so we're starting off the week with that new moon in Virgo, but by Wednesday, moon will enter Libra. What's really interesting is that Wednesday, Mars leaves Gemini and enters Cancer, where it's actually debilitated. So we're starting to get more and more planets that are either in domicile or debilitated. So Venus is already in domicile in Libra, which has been nice for the last couple of weeks, but now Mars is debilitated in Cancer. So in other words, starting September 4th, going forward, the ambition, the drive, the masculine energy is a little bit displaced. We might be a little bit complacent and not really wanting to take action, or even if we do want to take action, we may be doing so completely from a place of emotion, which can be a double-edged sword. Maybe that's good. That emotion can be motivating, and you can be very passionate in, your endeavor in taking action or fighting for what you want. It can be good to utilize that emotion. But on the other hand, if you're completely fighting from a place of emotion and not logic at all, then that can kind of betray you. You may not be making sense. Our emotions are not always based completely on objective fact and reality. So that can be embarrassing. Also, it is a little bit awkward too, having Mars in Cancer. Mars represents how we fight and what we fight for. And Cancer is the sign of home and family. So putting this like warrior god in the sign of home and family, you can see why this is a bit of an awkward match. We may be more defensive to fight for our family, but we may also be more defensive and fight with our family as well. That fighting energy can go both ways with Cancer. So just a heads up, not a big deal, but it is a bit of an awkward energy. With detriment, or I guess fall placements like this in general, we have to think outside of the box. So when it comes to your fighting, your drive, your ambition, you may have to look outside of the box for those things, where you may be wanting things that are a little bit unusual or kind of counterculture or abstract right now. Mars and Cancer, we're fighting for a feeling, so that can be fleeting. That's where it gets a little bit complicated. I did notice though on Wednesday, right, kind of before, I guess technically just a few hours before Mars enters Cancer, Moon actually squares Mars. So how do I say this? So right as Mars is at the very, very last part of Gemini, Moon enters the very, very last part of Virgo and squares Mars. And they both kind of change signs together, if that makes sense, which is really rare because the moon is so fast. So in other words, Mars is entering Cancer pretty much at the same time that Moon is entering Libra. So I think this just puts our attention even more on this. We don't always notice planets changing signs. Oftentimes we can, especially those of us that are kind of attuned to these sort of cycles. But we may not notice. But with this type of aspect happening at the same time, I think that's bringing our focus there more. Moon symbolizes our emotions. And if you have Moon making this very tense square aspect with Mars right as it's changing signs, we may be very aware of, a shift with, the ambition, the drive, the sex drive. We may be more sensitive. We may be, I don't know, more irritable, or we may be a little bit more aggressive, especially at least for the Eastern Standard Time Zone. It would be Wednesday night on September 4th. So again, just be aware of that. Not a super big deal necessarily. This will really just affect us for part of the day on Wednesday, but it's something to be aware of. We may be, I don't know, irritable. People may fly off the handle more easily. We may also be more defensive, or more prone to take action on this night specifically. So yeah, just again, something to be aware of. Going to Sunday, September 8th. This is a minor thing. Again, not a big deal. I know I keep saying that, but what even is a big deal? It's hard to say anymore after such a weird summer. But anyway, Sunday, September 8th, Sun reaches 16 degrees Virgo, where it will oppose Saturn at 15 degrees Pisces. I know it says Saturn is at 15 degrees Pisces, but technically this happens in the morning Eastern Standard Time when Saturn is still at 16 degrees Pisces, since it's retrograde. If you didn't follow all that, that's totally fine. It really doesn't matter. But I did just want to mention this because with Sun opposing Saturn, again, really it brings up a lot of the same themes that I mentioned on Monday's new moon. It's bringing up that Virgo Pisces axis. So you're bringing up these themes of mental and emotional health as well as physical health. Just use common sense. Eat healthy, get enough sleep. I really feel weird even having to say all these things because you're an adult. You know how to take care of yourself, hopefully. But I think sometimes we forget, we get caught up with life. We get caught up with, I don't know, emotion and responding to things. We get carried away. We get maybe overindulgent or whatever it is. So, just take this time to come back to reality, so to speak. Just, what's right for you, right? Eat healthy, go on a walk, clear your mind, it's just these kind of basic mundane things that will really, really help you with an energy like this. And again, kind of a warning, if you don't do these things, there are going to be probably extra harsh consequences because of Saturn's energy being involved. So just a heads up, I wouldn't want that for you. And yeah, that's really what I have for you for this week, but don't go yet. I did just want to show you a sneak peek at what we have to expect for kind of, I don't know, the following month or two. I thought I would just look ahead since we are entering a new month. So I don't have a specific chart to show you this, but I did just want to mention that over the next couple of weeks, we are entering eclipse season. And I feel like it was a long time ago that we had eclipse season, so I guess it is due, but for some reason it kind of snuck up on me. But yeah, we actually have 2 eclipses this September, so I will give you the details on those, maybe starting on the next forecast. I'm not really sure, but those are definitely coming up, so major changes. We definitely had a weird July and a weird August, but this is going to be a different kind of weird. This is intense, this is life-changing. Really big stuff happening in September. So I just wanted to give you a heads up of that. And then also on a less intense note, but I think very interesting, looking ahead, way ahead a little bit toward late October, there's a surprising amount of water planets. Once we get into Scorpio season, we'll have Mercury and Sun in Scorpio. And basically, they'll start forming these trines with these outer planets. Mars will still be in Cancer, and then Saturn and Neptune are, of course, in Pisces. So really, that's 5 water planets plus the moon. Moon is so fast. Every time it enters a water sign, that'll be a 6th planet, if you can call it that. So really, a lot of water. That's a lot of heavy emotion that's coming to us later this fall of this year. So, I feel so mixed about heavy water transits like this, because on the one hand, they can be very emotional. They can have to do with endings. It can be bittersweet at best. It can be hard. It can be tragic, and I think I really do think the water element is the most difficult for us as humans to kind of process, because, it's the most emotional and it has to do with endings. It can be difficult. But on the other hand, I have so many fond memories that come from heavy water transits, because, with that strong emotion, I think there's, it's not all bad. We can have really beautiful moments kind of mixed in as well. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a heads up of that. I guess that's all this forecast is just a heads up. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you got some kind of useful tidbit from this forecast. Definitely hit me up for a reading if you are interested in doing so. I always include my information in the description. Just make sure to email me your birth date, time, and place if you purchase a reading through my website. Okay, but thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next week.